Imagine a world without your smartphone, your laptop, or even your TV. It's almost impossible, right? Well, the unsung hero behind all this modern magic is a tiny, almost invisible piece of technology. The semiconductor. This is the story of how a revolution in a grain of sand changed our world forever. Our story begins not with a bang, but with a question that puzzled scientists for decades. What lies between a conductor, like copper, which lets electricity flow freely, and an insulator, like rubber, which stops it completely? The answer was a group of curious materials called semiconductors. For a long time, they were just a scientific curiosity. Materials like silicon and germanium had these strange properties, but nobody knew what to do with them. Everything changed in the aftermath of World War II. The world was buzzing with new energy and a thirst for innovation. At Bell Labs in New Jersey, a team of brilliant minds, Joan Bardeen, Votebert, and William Shockley, were working with these peculiar semiconductor crystals. They were trying to create a replacement for the bulky, power-hungry, and unreliable vacuum tubes used in radios and early computers. In December 1947, they had their breakthrough using a sliver of germanium and some gold foil. Brodin and Bardeen created a device that could amplify an electrical signal. It was the first point-contact transistor. It was clunky, delicate, and looked like a science fair project, but it worked. A new era had just begun. Shockley, seeing the potential, quickly developed a more robust and manufacturable version called the junction transistor. This was the real game changer. The transistor was small, required very little power, and was incredibly reliable. For their groundbreaking invention, the trio would later share the Nobel Prize in Physics. The 1950s saw the rise of the transistor. The first all-transistor radio hit the market, a pocket-sized marvel that let people take their music anywhere. But the real revolution was yet to come. The problem was that even with transistors, complex electronics still required a messy web of individual components wired together by hand. It was a tedious and error-prone process. Then, two engineers, working independently, had the same brilliant idea. In 1958, Jack Kilby at Texas Instruments created the first integrated circuit. He took a piece of germanium and built all the necessary components, transistors, resistors, capacitors, right onto it, connecting them with tiny wires. It was a monumental achievement, a monolithic idea. Just a few months later, across the country, at Fairchild Semiconductor, Robert Noyce devised a much more practical way to create an integrated circuit. He used silicon, a more stable and abundant material than germanium, and invented a method to connect the components on the chip using a layer of metal printed directly onto the surface. This was the birth of the microchip as we know it today. A single, solid piece of silicon containing an entire electronic circuit. The 1960s was the decade of the space race, and the new integrated circuits were essential. NASA's Apollo program became a major driver of semiconductor technology. The Apollo guidance computer, which took astronauts to the moon, was one of the first major systems to use integrated circuits. This high-stakes application pushed the industry to make chips smaller, faster, and more reliable than ever before. As the technology matured, a brilliant engineer named Gordon Moore, one of the founders of Fairchild and later Intel, made a stunning observation in 1965. He noticed that the number of transistors that could be placed on a microchip was roughly doubling every 2 years. This became known as Moore's Law. It wasn't a law of physics, but an incredible prediction that became a self-fulfilling prophecy for the entire industry. For the next 50 years, engineers would relentlessly chase this exponential growth, shrinking transistors to sizes that were once unimaginable. The 1970s brought the microprocessor. In 1971, Intel introduced the 4004, the world's first commercially available microprocessor. It was a single chip that contained the entire central processing unit of a computer. It was initially designed for a calculator, but its potential was limitless. This was the computer on a chip that visionaries had dreamed of. It paved the way for the personal computer revolution. Suddenly, computing power wasn't just for massive corporations or government agencies anymore. Hobbyists and entrepreneurs in garages across California, like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, started building their own computers around these new microprocessors. The Apple II, the IBM PC, and countless others brought computing into our homes and offices. From the 1980s onwards, the impact of semiconductors exploded. Moore's law continued its relentless march. Chips became exponentially more powerful, enabling the creation of laptops, the internet, and mobile phones. The digital camera replaced film, the CD, then the MP3 replaced vinyl records and cassette tapes. Every single one of these innovations was powered by increasingly sophisticated semiconductors. Think about the device you're watching this on right now. Inside it is a processor containing not thousands, not millions, but billions of transistors, each smaller than a virus. These transistors are switching on and off billions of times per second, performing the calculations that bring this video to you. It is all thanks to that initial spark of curiosity at Bell Labs and the relentless ingenuity of countless engineers who followed. Today, we stand at another turning point. We're reaching the physical limits of how small we can make silicon transistors. But the story of the semiconductor is far from over. Scientists are exploring new materials like graphene and new architectures like 3D chip stacking and quantum computing. The drive to compute faster, more efficiently, and in smaller packages continues. From a strange material in the lab to the engine of the global economy, the journey of the semiconductor is a testament to human innovation. It's a story of how a few bright ideas can build a new world, one tiny switch at a time. The next time you pick up your phone or open your laptop, take a moment to appreciate the incredible, invisible world of semiconductors working tirelessly inside. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the history of the semiconductor. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the technologies that shape our world. See you in the next one.